The forest was silent, save for the faint crunch of snow beneath the search team's boots. A bitter wind cut through the trees, carrying a chill that seemed to pierce straight through their jackets. Every branch was coated with frost, every shadow elongated by the weak winter sun. And then, something caught Officer Daniels' eye. A small, lifeless form lying half-buried in snow beneath a copse of pines. He froze, heart hammering. At first, he thought it was a scarecrow someone had left, some cruel joke. But as he drew closer, he realized with a gasp, it was a girl. She was no older than 12, pale and stiff, her lips tinged blue, her small body trembling uncontrollably. "Get the medics here now," Daniels barked, panic creeping into his voice. The team radioed for an ambulance while carefully carrying the girl onto a stretcher. The wind howled, echoing through the desolate trees, as if the forest itself were warning them that this was no ordinary rescue. The girl's eyes fluttered open briefly, and Daniels thought he saw fear there, real, palpable fear. Then she went still again. The medic arrived, and after frantic minutes of warming blankets and oxygen, her shallow breaths slowly returned. Daniels felt a cold knot of dread tighten in his chest. This girl had been out here for hours, maybe longer. And the way she looked at him when she tried to speak, it was like she had seen something horrifying. "No," she whispered hoarsely, barely audible over the wind. "They're still out there." The words hung in the air, chilling everyone. Who was they? And why would anyone leave a child out here, frozen and helpless? By the time the girl arrived at St. Mary's Hospital, the sun was setting, leaving long shadows across the snow-covered parking lot. She was immediately placed under intensive care. The warmth of the hospital room contrasted sharply with the icy grip of the woods she had endured. Nurses worked quickly, assessing frostbite and dehydration. Every time she tried to move, she whimpered. Every time she spoke, it was as if fear had clung to her throat, making words nearly impossible. Detective Lisa Harper was called in as the case unfolded. She had seen many things in her career, but nothing like this. A child found in freezing temperatures, seemingly abandoned in the woods, yet alive. Harper knew instinctively that this wasn't just an accident. Someone had left her there intentionally. And she could tell from the girl's eyes that there were truths she was desperate to reveal. "Do you know where you are?" Harper asked gently, kneeling beside the bed. The girl's eyes flickered toward the window, then back at Harper. "They'll come," she said, her voice trembling. "They'll come for me." Harper's blood ran cold. Who were they? And why would the girl assume they would return? Hours passed. The girl, shivering under a hospital blanket, seemed on the verge of collapse. But then, as if summoning every ounce of courage, she began to speak. Her words were fragmented at first, incomprehensible. She spoke of shadows in the woods, of whispers behind the trees, and of a strange man who had smiled too kindly. Her narrative jumped, confusing and terrifying anyone who listened. But Harper sensed there was truth in the chaos. "They took me, in the dark," the girl whispered, voice breaking. "I thought I'd never see the sun again. She paused, eyes wide with fear. "They said I would disappear if I screamed." Harper's mind raced. Who could do this to a child? And how had she survived? Something about the way the girl spoke, the hesitancy, the terror, made Harper certain. This was only the beginning. The woods had kept secrets for too long, and now they were being revealed. In her mind, the girl replayed every moment of her ordeal. Weeks earlier, she had been walking home from school, bundled in her coat, unaware of the eyes watching her from the shadows. A stranger approached, offering help with a kind smile. Trusting and innocent, she had followed. That was her first mistake. The stranger wasn't alone. Soon, she was whisked into a hidden vehicle, driven far from home, her protests ignored. Days blurred together as she was moved from cabin to cabin in remote locations, each colder and darker than the last. Her memories of food, warmth, or comfort were hazy, overshadowed by fear and the constant presence of danger. The girl's story continued in fragmented bursts. I couldn't scream. They threatened me. They said if anyone heard, they would come for my family. Every word made Harper and the officers lean closer, hanging on each terrified syllable. They began piecing together a picture more horrifying than they could have imagined. A criminal network operating in secret, targeting vulnerable children and exploiting them in ways the world could barely comprehend. The girl's revelation came in a slow, almost unbearable build-up. She explained that her captors were not strangers. They were part of a larger conspiracy, individuals who moved unseen in the shadows, exploiting connections to avoid detection. Her captors were manipulative, intelligent, and terrifyingly patient. They thought no one would find me, she said, eyes trembling. They watched everything, every step I took, every place I went, and they made sure the world would never see me again. The detectives realized the magnitude of what they were facing. This was not a single abduction. It was a well-organized operation that had remained hidden for years. The girl's escape, or discovery, was a small but crucial crack in the armor of the criminals' operation. Over the next days, the police worked tirelessly, using the girl's account to map out the network. Each revelation was a shock. Safe houses hidden deep in forests, secret codes to signal movements, complicit adults who had promised protection but had instead endangered her. Meanwhile, the girl remained fragile, haunted by memories, yet resolute. Harper watched her, marveling at her courage. The detective knew the girl's testimony was key. It wasn't just a story of survival. It was a roadmap to bring the perpetrators to justice. Weeks later, the investigation led to the first arrests. Hidden cabins, frozen forests, and secret passages were uncovered. Items belonging to other missing children were found, confirming the girl's story was only part of a larger horror. During an interview with the girl, Harper asked the question every officer feared to pose. Why did you stay silent all this time? The girl's eyes met Harper's. I had to survive. They said if I spoke, they'd come for me and for my family. Her words sent chills through everyone in the room. The bravery it had taken for her to speak now would become the weapon that finally ended their tormentor's reign. The arrests were just the beginning. Trials followed, but the girl's scars, emotional, physical, psychological, would last a lifetime. Yet her courage inspired others. Survivors came forward, law enforcement increased vigilance, and the forest no longer held its secrets completely. Still, there remained a haunting truth. For every abductor caught, others operated unseen. For every child found, countless others could still be in danger. And so, the girl's story was not just a tale of terror and survival. It was a warning, a reminder, and a call to vigilance. As the camera of imagination pans back to the frozen woods, one can almost hear her voice whisper in the wind, "Remember me. Remember what they did, and never let them be forgotten."